Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trep Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e-commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story, and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today I'm really excited to welcome Fred Perrotta to the show. Fred is the founder and CEO of Tortuga. Tortuga helps travelers avoid the cost and hassle of checking luggage with carry-on size travel backpacks and day packs. And today I'm going to ask Fred a few questions about his entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. So thank you so much for your time today, Fred. Really appreciate you joining us at Trep Talks.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for inviting me and for having me.
Definitely. So, your business has been running for some time. I believe you started in 2009 or 2010, somewhere around that time. So it's like almost 12, 13 years. Can you share, do you even remember the story, your startup story, the motivation that got you started?
I do. You always have to be able to repeat it to folks. So it's important to remember that. A lot of things I've forgotten from them, but I do remember that. Tortuga is kind of a scratch your own itch kind of business. My business partner and I went on a trip backpacking Europe in 2009. That was during the recession. Flights were pretty cheap, so we took a little vacation, and it was my first time really backpacking, traveling internationally, taking a longer trip like that. I'm kind of nerdy. I like to do the research, so I was trying to find the right bag before the trip. And bought kind of a big hiking bag, which is what most backpackers get. And then went on the trip and quickly realized those big bags are really for hiking. They're kind of for the outdoor industry, not for traveling. So had a bit of a pain to deal with that every day. So I would open it up, dump everything out, get what I needed, repack the whole thing. So packing and unpacking every day. We were staying in hostels, taking trains, so kind of roughing it. And just learned that those weren't great bags for traveling, but we had a lot of free time. This was sort of early mobile phones and internet and all that. So we weren't just on our phones on our train trips. We were actually talking and kind of got around to talking a lot about the backpacks because the ones we brought, we didn't love for traveling and, thought there could be a better solution. We had both just read The 4-Hour Workweek, if you're familiar with that book. So in that book, Tim Ferriss kind of lays out how to build a physical product business. So we thought, okay, we've got this idea around backpacks. We've got this book. We could just do what he says to do and, put it together and we'll be rich and successful, right? So came back from our trip, came back from Europe, bought a domain name. That was the first thing I did because that was the only thing I knew how to do. Didn't know how to make a backpack, but we came back. We're all excited about it, and that got us started on the process. So that by the time we ran into all the problems that you inevitably run into, we were excited about it and decided to push through those problems and solve them.
It's so interesting that Tim Ferriss. If you look at the whole internet industry and the advent of internet and the e-commerce and so forth, there's like technologies and social media platforms that kind of propelled that enabled businesses to come like from offline to online. But people like Tim Ferriss were kind of like the catalyst. They played the role of, I guess, motivating people or showing them the way that it can be done easily. And so I'm sure so many people were motivated by 4-Hour Workweek to build the business. Myself also, like when traveling, I've probably made the same mistake, right? You buy the big backpack and then everything is in there, nothing is organized. Can you share a little bit about the difference of what a travel backpack is versus a hiking backpack? Is travel backpack really something that compartmentalizes different things so everything is organized and easy to find?
Yeah, so we wanted to combine those hiking bags, which they don't work well for travel, but they do have some good features. There's a reason people do travel with them. We wanted to combine sort of the best of those with the best parts of a suitcase and put it together into something that worked well and wasn't just a suitcase with a couple straps on it. So like a hiking pack. So we call it a travel backpack, and what that means to us is that it's similar to a hiking pack in that it's comfortable and really rugged. So you're carrying it on your back. That's a lot of weight. It needs to be comfortable. It has a hip belt, so that'll take some of the weight off your shoulders, put it on your hips because your legs are stronger than your shoulders. So we want it to be comfortable and convenient like that. The problem is the organization. So we also brought in some elements of a suitcase in that our bags they open from the front, so it opens like a book. That way you can see all your stuff laid out as if like it works in a suitcase. You can see it all laid out. You can grab one item if that's all you need. Everything else stays in place. You can organize it all however you like to pack. So kind of laid out like a suitcase, but carries and is comfortable like a hiking pack. So wanted to bring those together into one product.
And that was the vision from the very beginning, or did that vision like evolve over time? Or was the original vision, but your design improved over time?
Yeah, the design certainly improved over time because we had no background in designing or manufacturing or anything. So had to work with third parties and designers and factories and things like that. So did that and got better at how to communicate to those third parties that we had to use, how to communicate our ideas and what we wanted. And then, found good partners for us at each stage along the journey as we kind of leveled up, would find the right fit in terms of factories and designers. So we had to get better and then find the right partners to work on those things.
And right now, like as a business, how many products? I believe on your website, I found like 3 main products. Are those the main products that you're selling right now?
Yep. So we have the travel backpack, like we just talked about a minute ago. That's kind of our main product. Common accessory people like to buy are packing cubes, which just lets you organize and segment your bag a little bit more. And then we also have a laptop backpack. So that's more for a personal item or under seat luggage. So kind of your second bag that you would carry with a suitcase or with a duffel bag or something like that.
And so when you started like 12, 13 years ago, obviously this, it may have been like an innovative product or a new kind of a product or a product aimed towards a certain niche or target audience. But now 12, 13 years down the road, what do you find? Like, do you think that this, there's a lot of products out there that are targeting the travel, the traveler? And do you find like you have a lot of competition?
Yeah, there's definitely been more people entering that space. When we started, the only bags that were really comparable were usually one product made by an outdoor company. So same companies that make those hiking bags would often have one that they kind of targeted towards travelers a little bit. So bigger brands like Osprey, they're a hiking brand, or REI, a big retailer here in the US. So some of them would have one product for that person, for that market. And basically our original bet was we could take that one product that they don't really focus on because they're mostly doing outdoors. We could take that one product and do a better job of making it and build a business around that idea, right? It's just one small product to that big brand, but to us, if we totally focused on it and made that our only thing, we still thought that was big enough to build a company around.
And can you take me back to the beginning? When you got this idea, you were motivated by Tim Ferriss. Can you share a little bit about what were the first thing? I believe you had like a co-founder also, and you started it as a side hustle kind of a thing. Can you share a little bit about that journey of what were some of the first things that you did, and how did you actually get the business off the ground?
Yeah, we started on the side. So I was working at the time at Google, which was always on the list of best places to work, but I wasn't enjoying it. So it's like, well, if I don't like working at the best place to work, that's probably a sign I better figure out something else, a different path. And then my business partner, Jeremy, he was in film school at the time. So he wanted to figure out something. Our initial idea was to create it as like a passive income kind of business. So for Jeremy, he wanted to pursue filmmaking. So he knew obviously that's a difficult industry and he would need some other way to have more consistent money coming in as he tried to work on that career. So we both had different reasons for wanting to start something up. And yeah, we started with the stuff we knew how to do. The very first thing I did, I bought a domain name. That doesn't get you very far though. So the first important stuff we started doing was we found a designer on, we used Upwork at the time, or actually, sorry, Elance. Now it's Upwork is kind of the more common one, but we used one of those freelancing sites, found a designer, and then started working with him to communicate. All right, we want a bag that has these features, that does these things, who it's for, all that sort of stuff. So that part of the process actually felt pretty fast, like it seemed to work well. The really hard part after that was finding someone to make the bags. So that's where we kind of really quickly got in over your head and you learn when you really don't know what you're doing. So yeah, we bounced around a lot at that stage. So at the time, everyone told us we should make it in China. So started trying to work with manufacturers there, but obviously there's a time gap, there's a language gap. We had never made anything before. So, very hard to vet factories, hard to know how to work with them, all that sort of stuff. So went through a lot of trials and tribulations there, spent months trying to get our first sample. They sent a picture of the first sample before they sent us the bag. And it was about twice the size of the person who was wearing it in the picture. So we spent months trying to get a sample, and then the first one is just a disaster. But I think everyone who usually doesn't have a background in making stuff and gets into it has all of those same kind of horror stories. Like you just have to learn through trial and error. You try some stuff, it doesn't work, so you try something else and keep going until it starts to work.
If you were starting today, like this whole aspect of finding the manufacturer and is now the bigger challenge that you have to because it's a new idea, you have to sell the idea to the manufacturer or the factory, so that it's a little bit of a risk for them also. Are they investing in your idea, or is it still the challenge is to find the right factory or the manufacturer? Which one, what has changed in the last 12, 13 years?
I think the challenge is selling them on you and potentially the viability of that business. So, they're indifferent if they think the product's going to be a hit, or they think it seems stupid. That's not their area of expertise. So what they care about, what they want is a good customer, right? So one, that you can actually pay for this order that you're going to place. And I'm sure they also think about whether you're going to be a good customer with them. Like, are you going to ask for a bunch of changes? Are you going to be a pain to work with? Are you going to accept the product as is? How are you going to be to work with? I'm sure plenty of suppliers have worked with people who are, on the phone yelling at them every day. Maybe that's justified, maybe not. Don't pay on time, pay late, all those sort of things. So you got to think about, obviously you care about what you want and getting your product made, but if you're going to have a good relationship, you got to think about what they want, right? So they want to know that you're going to pay in full, you're going to pay on time, and that you're going to place more orders, right? So like, yeah, they're happy to get a new customer and an order, but if you just place one order and go out of business, can't sell them, whatever, then, they're not going to make that much off you, right? They want someone who's placing an order every month or quarter or whatever, and sticking around, adding more products, all of that stuff, right? They want a good customer, like any service-based business. So obviously you can't promise that all up front, but you do have to sell them a little bit on taking a chance with you. That was something we had a tough time with. And then I would also try to pay them on time and maybe accept terms that are a little more friendly to them, payment terms that are a little more friendly to them initially to build up a little trust with them. that might mean paying earlier or paying a bigger percentage of the order earlier. And yeah, that's not good for you as a business, but if you can prove to them that you're going to pay on time, be a good customer, making that kind of investment can maybe pay off down the line.
But I believe you ended up actually not, initially you're not getting your product manufactured in China. I believe you moved to US. Are you still, is your product still manufactured in the US, or have you gone back?
No, we've at this point we've been all over the world. So we started sampling in China. We got that picture of the giant backpack, and we were like, "Oh no, we're never going to be able to make this work. This is too hard trying to do U.S. to China." We freaked out about it. We actually found a supplier, like you mentioned, in the U.S., and they were also hard to work with, just for different reasons. So it doesn't solve all your problems making it locally, but we did find someone, eventually made 100 backpacks with them in Long Beach in Southern California. So we got that done, but at those prices, we weren't going to make much money on the bag, but we figured, all right, let's get it produced before we run out of money. Let's make something and sell it, right? Trying to be the minimum viable product kind of approach. And we said, all right, we'll get it out there. We'll figure out, do people want this? We'll learn something, and then we'll figure out better pricing and manufacturing down the line. So we put those bags out because we got to the point where we were either going to run out of money and not order anything, or we just kind of had to order it where it was. There were more things we wanted to change, but we had to just put it out there. So the first version of the bag was very ugly. It had a giant logo, a lot of problems, but so we didn't have a very high conversion rate, but the people who did buy really liked what we were trying to do. Maybe they didn't think it looked great, but it worked well, it solved the problem they needed to solve, traveled well, all that. So we knew we were onto something. So we redesigned the bag, and we later started manufacturing in China. Manufactured there for years with a couple different partners. In 2017, the tariffs were increased on goods imported from China to the US. So we had already been exploring Vietnam before that, but we started working with some partners in Vietnam starting then. And now that's where we're doing most of the manufacturing. And Vietnam is kind of the other, Vietnam and China are sort of the two big bag manufacturers. A lot of the outdoor brands have been in Vietnam for a while. So started manufacturing there a few years ago, and yeah, that's where we're at now. So bounced around US to China to now Vietnam.
Cool. This whole idea of validating the idea and the minimum viable product in the beginning, like, because I'm assuming you were bootstrapping, like you probably put some of your own money. Was there, in your own mind, or when you had the discussion with your co-founder, like, was there a criteria that where you said, we're putting X amount of money together, and this is our budget. If we try to sell this idea, it doesn't work. That's it. Like, did you have a criteria to say, yes, this is not working. We have already spent this much amount of money, and if we are not able to sell it, then we're going to end this idea? Or like, did you have any of that kind of a discussion when you were building your minimum viable product?
I needed to talk to you back then. Apparently, no, we did not do that. We should have. The budget came because until we placed the order, everything we were doing was doing it pretty cheaply. Try to get a website up. So it was like a little money here, a little there. Nothing felt like we're putting so much in that everything's on the line until we got to that order. So we had bootstrapped everything up to that point, but we got some money from this group called the Jewish Free Loan Association. So they do no interest loans and kind of like help the Jewish community out. So my partner's Jewish, so we could qualify for that. So we got some money from them, and that was going to be, all right, we got this money from them, we'll use that to place the order. And then the product development kind of dragged out. So that money started shrinking as we're spending on other stuff. So that was kind of the driving factor that made us say, all right, we can't spend all that money we got from them and then have to pay it back and have no way to pay it back, no income to pay it back with. So that kind of pushed us over or pushed us to place that order right then. And then once we were selling, we also probably should have had some rules in place to guide us, but probably like a lot of other entrepreneurs, like your heart's in it, so you're like, it's going to work. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. Even though we were selling 1 or 2 bags a month at that point, but like I said, the feedback was good enough that we thought, okay, we were attached to the idea, so we were talking ourselves into it, of course, but we were getting good feedback. We knew what was wrong in terms of the look and design of the bag. So we thought, okay, if people like what we made, we know what needs fixed. So if we just fix that, then we can have a real business that sells more every month. So it probably would have been the right thing to do to have some rules, but to prevent you always can make a case and talk yourself into it when you want something to work. So that would have been good to do, but it might have stopped us early on because there were a lot of signals that were telling us to stop, but we just ignored the red lights and kept going.
Well, the reason I'm asking that question is with the benefit of hindsight, any entrepreneur who's, let's say, starting out now, what would your advice be? Of course, starting a bag business, I would say, is still a rather straightforward kind of a product. Of course, you still have to get everything right, design and everything, but still, it's not like a technology-based thing. Looking back, if you were advising an entrepreneur or someone who's just starting out who has a similar kind of a product-based idea, would you, based on your experience, say, although we did this in this sequence and in this manner, but now looking back, I would advise you to do something differently, or would you say that if somebody has an idea and they're passionate enough, just take enough actions, and even though you're going to make mistakes, it's going to work out?
Yeah, it's really hard for that early stage to say. People always ask what you would do differently or advise to someone, and I would like to not have made those mistakes, but if someone told me the right answer and I skipped those, I would have just made some different ones or made the same one later on. So it is, it's part of the learning process. You can't strategize everything up front and then execute it all perfectly. You're going to make mistakes and run into these problems. So the learning is a necessary part of it. And I don't know, as much as I would want to tell someone to do what you mentioned before, of having the parameters of, if this happens, then we continue. If this happens, then we stop. There is some value in the an entrepreneur just being a little naive and believing more than there's evidence to support their beliefs. That has a lot of value when you're starting out. Of course, some people take it too far, but I would maybe err in the direction of following that at first, and kind of following that passion, and being okay to be a little driven by your heart over your head or something for a while. Probably need some rules around, you don't want to do that for 10 years and hope something's going to change. But if you have, if you do that for some period of time, a year or something, and do see what needs change to make this work versus, just hoping that something changes. If you do see a path forward and know what you have to change, then I would say keep at it. But if the evidence mounts too much that you should stop, maybe eventually you should listen to the evidence.
What was the turning point for your business? So it seems like, from what you've shared, the sales at the beginning were, not I would say sporadic, I guess. At what point did you and your co-founder say, yes, now we have made enough changes to the product, and it's now it's really sticking with the the people who are buying it, and now the idea is really working? Was there like any that kind of a turning point in your business?
Yeah, that was the one time it was a really clear line of what changed. Mostly the business has been sort of gradual growth over time, and then occasionally with, say, a new product launch or something that we change, we take a step up to that next level and then slowly grow from there. But the biggest one was, I mentioned earlier that the first version of the bag was pretty ugly and sold sporadically, as you said. It's a nice way to say it. So we redesigned the bag to fix smaller logo, fix some stuff that we thought would make it work better. And we launched that in 2013. That was the second version, V2 of the bag in 2013. And right away, we started selling. We had a little bit of a wait list. We did some pre-sales. Those were looking good. And once it was available on the website, we had more consistent sales, not one a month, but frequent sales, and made maybe 5 figures or so towards the end of that year and early into the next year. So that was enough for us to see, okay, there's some world where we make money every day from this business, like a real amount of money every day. So that is the baseline, and then you can work from there to build that number up, obviously. But that redesigning the bag and that relaunch in 2013 was the sign that we went from, like, first we had an idea, then we made a product, but that's when we thought, okay, this is the sign that this can actually be a business.
Now, I guess it may also depend on when an entrepreneur starts a business and they have a certain goal. Like, as you said, your goal and your co-founder's goal was maybe to create a passive income so that your co-founder can pursue their acting career, or you can have some additional income coming in. At this point in your business, like, have you achieved that goal? Is that still the goal, or has it transitioned into like a full-time business, full-time career for you? And is your so I guess when someone starts a business with a certain goal, I guess the kind of time and effort and resources they're putting in is it's based on that goal. How has that is it still your goal to create passive income out of it, or or has it become kind of like a full-fledged business for you?
Yeah, the latter. Every like a lot of people, I think every time we hit one goal, we just kind of move up to the next goal. You just got to set your ambitions a little higher. So that's been the cycle for us. When we started out, we thought we would run ads, and that would be sort of the traffic to the site. And then, once in a while we'd place an order, and it would be mostly passive otherwise. I had worked at Google previously, so I thought, okay, I know how to do the ads. This will be great. But like I mentioned, that first version of the bag was very ugly, didn't convert very well, which meant those ads weren't profitable. So we had to figure out another avenue, and ended up more doing content marketing rather than advertising. So partially because of how the business ended up working in terms of getting traffic in and making sales, and partially just kind of our own ambitions. Once we're making some progress, we kind of wanted to like do more. Let's do some new products. Let's eventually grow the team, add some employees. And yeah, we've just kind of at each level that we reach, we're still having fun and enjoying it. So we just kind of want to do more, like solve more problems, make more products. Like, a lot of the businesses is very fun. So yeah, we still like it, and kind of keep raising that level of ambition rather than settling or selling it or whatever.
And is your target market still the travel or the traveler demographic, or has it changed?
No, still primarily travel. I would say when we start, we had a vision that was probably very similar to us. So 20 something or college student kind of age, staying in hostels, backpacking, really roughing it. We've definitely broadened out from there. So we have a wider age range. We have, we do have students who travel with the bags, but all the way up to, people who are retired and say they didn't know if they could carry the backpack for traveling because they're older, but they love it and it's comfortable for them. So have a wider range that way in terms of age, and then also just how people travel. So yeah, we still have those backpackers and stuff, but now, we've got the digital nomads. We've got people who don't travel much internationally, but do a lot of weekend trips, or are salespeople, so they have to travel for work. So that part of it is widened out, but we still stay travel specific, especially because, like I said, when we started, a lot of brands were outdoor brands making one travel bag. And then there's a lot of companies that are basically just bag brands. So they make a work bag, a gym, travel. So they do a little bit of everything, but focusing on one category for us lets us really focus there, lets us do the content marketing, which is important to the business, and kind of be part of that niche too.
How did the COVID affect your business? Was that like a big dip in your business? Because of course nobody was traveling. So
yeah, it was not good.
okay.
Yeah, so I like to say now that we started in a recession, 2009, and we've made it through a pandemic. So I don't know what's next, but hopefully we'll make it through that too. Yeah, it was pretty tough for us, especially being in travel. Obviously, travel pretty much dried up, and we're also really focused on international. Usually, people buy new luggage when they're taking a big trip. So international, backpacking Europe or a long honeymoon, whatever. So the main reason people bought our bags kind of went away, and even the other uses. So we have a smaller bag that you could carry to work or school or whatever. Those also were less relevant. So yeah, it was not a good time. We had to lay off a lot of our team. Sales really fell off. We tried all kinds of different stuff to keep the business going and work our way through it. And once we kind of got some things stabilized, cut some costs, figured out what we wanted to do, then for the last couple of years, we've really been building with an eye on post-pandemic. So rather than just kind of muddling through the pandemic, we started thinking about, all right, what's the next version of the business after the pandemic? Like what should this look like? We've got 12 years of experience, so we can use that, and then tried to use it as an opportunity. So even though obviously it was terrible for the business and for lots of other reasons, but tried to use that as a reset, that we could build the company that we weren't building from scratch, but kind of from scratch a little bit. So thinking about what would be the next version of the business and starting to build that ahead of time.
And that next version of the business, like when you think about it, is it like getting into adjacent categories? Is it more like creating other travel focused products, or what does that mean for you? Like, how do you, I guess, being in one category and having like a limited number of products, kind of like you only have, I guess, the risk is much bigger in terms of if the travel industry is affected, then your business basically is affected. So how do you think about it?
Yeah, there's going to be some risk involved, right? There have been other times that hurt the travel industry, or even just when the price of gas is higher, then people travel less because air travel gets more expensive. So there are some inherent risks that you're going to have to live with in any industry. Hopefully it won't drop whatever air travel dropped 80% or something as drastically in the future. So yeah, basically what we did on the product side was we actually used to have a lot more products. We had maybe 20 SKUs. So during the pandemic, we moved some of those to Amazon. We liquidated some with some third parties that kind of give you not a good return on them, but we could turn some into cash. So we went from having 20 something SKUs, shrunk it down with the idea being a little leaner and simpler so we could manage the business during the pandemic, and then to grow it, but grow it differently afterwards. So the big change there is that we used to have 3 collections at 3 different price points. So we had like our premium one, our budget one, and our Goldilocks in the middle one. But but the problem that we had is we're kind of like the mattress companies that are big in D2C, where we're good at making that first sale, and that's a valuable sale, a few $100, but we're not as good at getting that second and third purchase from someone, because if we make a good bag, then they don't need one next week. If they're good for 5 years or maybe longer. So that's been the challenge. So we're going to try to grow and grow products with that in mind. So we'll be doing more accessories that you could buy to use with the bag, more smaller bags that you can use as a personal item or for work, school, other purposes. We'll still, focus on travel, but just by making smaller bags, they're kind of more versatile. You can use them for more things versus our big bags are pretty big. They're, the size of a carry-on suitcase. So get into some categories where we're making smaller bags and accessories. So that's the plan, and we'll start to roll out. We've got some new stuff coming the beginning of 2023, and we'll be launching a lot of products next year.
It's one of the challenges of creating a product-based business, or like a single product-based business, that you started out with like this one product which you can call like a hero product, right? Which was your main product at the beginning, and you put a lot of heart and mind and effort into it to create like the best design, the most customer validated product. And in a way that kind of becomes your, from a Pareto principle, 80% of your sales are coming from that product, but then you're adding new SKUs and which may be selling, but they're not the best sellers. How do you think about when you're adding a new product? Is it like always like when you're adding something new, is it always like you have to be very focused on building that new product with the same kind of focus and effort and love to make sure that customers have the same kind of demand for that, rather than just having like adding another SKU so that you have like additional revenue generating? Like, how do you see this now?
Yeah, we try and do a bit of both, depending on the product. So I think when we started out, I definitely had that mentality of everything had to be like, any new product had to be super unique and as big of a deal as the first travel backpack we made, and had to be that innovative. And you're kind of always trying to reinvent. And there are some businesses that are basically that, but that's not really how most successful businesses operate. You have to do some innovation and some creating a new category or just doing new features or whatever with some products, but those should always hopefully be your winners. But you can also make money off of simpler things that are you're not copying what's out there, but you have to understand the market, see what people are buying, and see maybe you can bring some of your perspective to that product, even if it's only a little bit unique or a little bit innovative. And the other side of that is you want to kind of build up your brand with folks, so that if you do release something that's could be seen as less unique, they still want to buy it from you because they trust you for quality, or they like the business and they already have one bag from you. So when they go shopping for this other category, of course they want it from you because they already trust you. So we've tried to have a little bit more balance that way, and not been as strict or idealistic or something maybe, and just accept that there are some categories that already exist, people really like them, we can put our spin on it and make something a little bit unique, but we don't have to reinvent the wheel with every product. So I think some people are really good at that and accept like, hey, yeah, I'll make something, I don't care if there's 20 other brands selling the exact same thing. And then I think some entrepreneurs have more of my perspective, which is like I don't know, being a designer or product person, where you're like, no, we have to change the world with every product. But sometimes you can just make some packing cubes, and it's just a cube of material, but people like them to organize their stuff. So make it, people want it, they buy it. So, we can be the one to sell it to them too.
Cool. In terms of your sales channels, are you really just selling through your website? Have you ever considered like going through the retailer route, or is that like too complicated or too risky to pursue?
So it's mostly through our store, and then we do sell a bit on Amazon. And then we've tried a couple other little things, but they weren't too major. When we started out, we thought we would try to be in stores. I think partially because that's part of the strategy laid out in 4-Hour Workweek. I think he tried to get he was making supplements, and I think he tried to get in GNC or one store, that he could have a relationship with. But yeah, that was one of our original ideas. We, called around, and of course they ignore you because you don't even have a product yet. You don't know what you're doing, and aren't very good at selling the buyers. So we didn't make any progress there. So we started out on the site, and we've just kind of kept that rolling. There are some downsides, especially selling something that's a big purchase in terms of consideration and price. Plus, it needs to fit well, so people want to try it on. So we've done what we can to mitigate that. So allowing people to try it on at home, return it, have 30 days to return, and trying to make that process easy. But yeah, there certainly are some trade-offs to not being in stores, but something we'll probably revisit in the future.
How has your marketing changed or evolved over time? I know you said you moved from Google Ads to content marketing. Is that still your primary marketing channel? Are you on social media? Are you trying like some of these channels like TikTok and Instagram to drive traffic?
Yeah, we've always been driven by content and SEO. And the big thing there, we do a little bit of social media, but really, ultimately, what's really worked well for us is kind of sharing our knowledge and helping the customer. So, some of these channels, there are, of course, informative, whatever, TikTok accounts, but a lot of it is more entertainment driven. And we've always done better by helping people travel better, whether that's telling them, suggesting ways to pack, places to go, anything like that, how to fit your bag and carry it well, make sure it's comfortable. We've always done better at education than at entertainment, let's say, if those are two categories. So yeah, we've always, for that reason, we've tended to focus on content, and we also like channels that we can own. I think because we started out in content where we can own the site, the blog, whatever. So we've tended to place more faith in those than in things we don't own, like Facebook and all that. So especially when you see people, worried about cost of acquiring customers going up on Facebook, or issues around iOS 15 or 14, whenever they made the update there. So I see some of the stuff that like causes a lot of problems in the ad world, and kind of makes me appreciate what we've built on the content and SEO side.
Definitely. A little bit on your fulfillment and shipping. Are you shipping mostly in the US, or is it like a global strategy? And can you share a little bit about your fulfillment strategy?
Yeah, we're primarily US right now. We have a distributor we've worked with a bit in Europe, but primarily US. We used to ship internationally more, but there are some, let's call it, complications around that. And what we're finding then is, so we work with a 3PL, which is like a warehouse that does your shipping and storage. So they send stuff out, and depending on your partner there, for the warehouse and for carriers, it can be a little difficult, the international shipping. And what we found was we were shipping a lot, especially to Europe, tended to be a big market for us. And people often didn't know that they would have to pay the import duties. So that would really add to the cost. Obviously, shipping was slow if we were shipping from the US. They had to pay for shipping because it's expensive for a big bag and long distance. So what ended up happening was people would get the bag, they would end up paying a bunch more in shipping and all this stuff. So they weren't happy about that. And was kind of creating a situation where they were having a bad experience, even if they got the bag, like they were having a bad experience. So that meant they were unhappy. They were a bigger percentage of customer service time than they were of revenue, because they would have problems receiving the bag, or they'd be mad about it, and rightly so. So we decided to cut back on that and focus just on the US. And then we'll revisit that again. I think we have a better plan now, but revisit that when people can see all the costs up front, pay them up front, and have kind of a faster and easier time shipping and receiving the bags.
What does your team look like right now?
So in addition to shrinking down our SKUs, we also had to shrink down our team and lay some folks off. So today we are 4 people, myself, my co-founder, and then some people in marketing and support.
So did your co-founder ever end up pursuing the acting career, or?
So it was screenwriting and directing. So he has now written a bunch of screenplays by now, and even made one movie.
Oh wow! So it did work out.
Yeah, he got to do a bit of both worlds. Still working with and in Tortuga, and then also doing the screenwriting.
Oh, cool. In every entrepreneur's journey, there's always mistakes made, lessons learned. In your journey, looking back, what are 1 or 2 big mistakes that you think, or lessons learned that you think you can share with other entrepreneurs who are, in a similar journey?
Yeah, I feel like we've made every mistake there is, but I'm sure I'll find some more that I can make. So yeah, that's how we've always learned. I think we talked before about some of the mistakes in getting started, trying to make that first bag. But then even once we did have a product that was getting some momentum, the next year after that, we had a product that we went from not being able to sell it to selling well. And because we were still growing, so we couldn't order too many bags at a time, so we'd do a small order. What would happen was we'd get the order in, we would announce it to people, and it would sell out that same day. So then once we had a bag that was working, we spent a year where we'd get an order in, sell out immediately, and then be sold out for like 3 months until we got the next order in. So we flipped problems. So I think the lesson out of that is like when it happens, when you find that fit and start getting some momentum, it can be sudden. So you have to be ready for it, but you also can't over-engineer, over-plan. Like it would have been a mistake for us to order, 10,000 bags instead of 1,000 because we didn't have the proof yet, right? But once it happens, we probably could have been smarter about maybe finding other sources of money so we could scale up the orders and grow a little quicker, or maybe we should have raised the price to offset that demand and manage it a bit better. So I think probably some things we could have learned, but we're just so grateful to be selling anything at that point. That was kind of the focus. So yeah, I think a good lesson in being on both sides of failing and then succeeding in some way, and being able to adjust quickly and kind of make the right decisions for whatever the current problem is.
Do you think that a business like this, the bottleneck, once you've got the product, a product that is working, right, which is selling, is the bottleneck at that point really the marketing? Like, is it really about how well you can market your product in the market that really limits your growth? Do you see it like that, or do you have a different perspective on that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination or maybe a balance of that marketing with the operational side of the business, and especially the cash flow and inventory side. So you obviously if something's working, people are liking it, you want to press the gas on the marketing side of the business, but you can also fall into that situation I described a minute ago where you're so successful you can't keep stock in, or you've heard of some people where they don't have their margins worked out, then they're growing but losing money. Like the more they grow, the worse they're doing. So there are a lot of challenges around cash flowing and reinvesting that money into more inventory, because while it looks like you're making a profit over here, that profit is really just to buy more inventory, right? Goes back into the business. So as you're growing and getting better at marketing, I think that's the visible one. I think people tend to recognize and know, but you also need to make sure you're on top of the finance side, and the cost of your products plus the marketing still leaves enough left over for you to buy more products. So making sure you understand that sort of how cash flows through the business and your cost is also important. Otherwise, you can be doing great on the marketing side, but running into trouble elsewhere.
Now we're going to move on to our rapid fire segment. And in this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them maybe in a few words or 1 or 2 sentences. So the first one is one book recommendation for entrepreneurs or business professionals in 2022, and why?
Looking at my bookshelf to the side here. I'll recommend 2 that are less common. I'll try to give a unique answer. So one is This Is Not a T-Shirt. It's by Bobby Hundreds he has a streetwear brand called The Hundreds, and it's really about creating a brand out of a culture and community and building the brand out of that, which is cool. And the other one is called The Box, it's like this thick, it's 500 pages, but it's about the invention of the shipping container and how it changed the economics of trade and sales. So I think important if you're importing stuff, making it in another country and using shipping containers, you should probably know the history of that.
That's great. An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited
about? I think the one I've been using the most and getting more and more excited about is Airtable, which is kind of I guess it's a database technically, but it feels a little lighter weight and closer to using Google Docs or something. So we've been using that more and more, and I think I'm starting to understand what you can do in there, and have been really liking that for a couple parts of the business.
Yeah, Airtable is versatile, more versatile than Excel, because it's, as you said, it's kind of like a database that you don't need to be able to code. It's kind of like, you can manage it. A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip?
I think probably the one I use the most often every day is Text Expander, which is a little app that lets you type a little short code, like a couple letters, and will expand into, I use it for URLs or common replies to emails, things like that. But just based on how many times a day I type in one of those, that's probably got to be my top one.
That I'm assuming that's great for customer service. Is that?
It is, but most of the customer service tools have something like that built in. So you can usually save answers, and some of them now try to guess which saved answer you'll put in. Sort of a machine learning kind of thing.
A startup or business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think is currently doing great things?
I'll give a shout out to a company that we're friendly with called Western Rise. They do a lot of kind of performance clothing, so tends to work well for travel. So we've always been connected, but they just launched a new Kickstarter. They've done a bunch of Kickstarters, but they did a new one that is for a rain shell. So it's cool to see a brand leveling up from like t-shirts to pants to now like more technical outerwear. So as a product nerd, I like seeing brands not just get better at marketing and selling, but also doing harder and harder products is cool to see.
A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you?
Lately, I've been listening a lot to the podcast My First Million. I don't know if you ever listened to that one, but I really like the 2 entrepreneurs on there, Sam Parr and Sean Puri. So they've been really inspire me. Not necessarily with their businesses, which
Hmm.
are great and fine, but just with the conversations on the show always makes me excited to go out and like think of new ideas and explore new stuff.
Yeah, I come across those clips on TikTok. I
Oh
didn't know the
yeah.
I didn't know the name of it, but yeah, I do. I follow them, and I do come across the mini clips from that show. It's very interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting show. And final question: best business advice you ever received, or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
Um, I think you might guess this from all the problems we ran into starting out and the fact that we didn't quit. But I think some of the best advice is often to keep going. Like maybe some people take that too far and keep going when they should have stopped. But I think a lot of times people, something doesn't take off immediately, or um, where I live near Silicon Valley, right? So it's easy for me to see like, oh, this business raised 100 million and billions and these kind of numbers, but like it's not the scale of business I operate in, but that kind of stuff can be discouraging. It's easy to see someone doing better than you and think like, oh, this isn't working, or I can't do it, I'm not good enough, whatever, and give up. But I think a lot of times the answer is to keep going. Like you're going to run into problems. There'll be shortcomings to the business you chose, or things that are challenging about your business or category or whatever. But that's kind of the nature of the game. And if you keep going and keep showing up and keep putting all your all into it every day, then you're going to make something out of it.
Definitely, that's great advice. Thank you, Fred. Really, really appreciate your time today. If someone watching the show wants to purchase your travel backpack, what is the best way they can do that?
Yeah, they can just go to our website. It's tortugabackpacks.com, and that's Tortuga. It's the Spanish word for turtle because turtle's got everything it needs right on his back.
That's awesome. That's a great name. Well, Fred, thank you so much again for sharing your story, for sharing some of the some of the challenges and strategies and tactics that you used to start and grow your business. So yeah, thank you again for joining Trip Talk and sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks. It was great talking to you. It's a good conversation.
Thank you.